Welcome everybody to Going Grassroot, and it's been a long while since we have updated our Spotify account
Yeah,
because it's been a month, I think. Yes,
we've been uploading on
but
YouTube.
yeah, we've been doing shows on YouTube, and I think we're getting response over there as well.
Yes.
So, but this is like a freedom podcast for me because I don't care about how much it lasts. If it's 2 hours, if it's 3 hours, but we're just going to do it,
The listeners do.
and
They care about it.
yeah, yeah, because we need to talk about whatever is happening, and as you can read the title that how is Premier League so unpredictable this season, and basically it is, and everyone is shocked after the 7-2 Aston Villa versus Liverpool scoreline. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
I'm here, Avnish, and I'm with Vedant. And Vedant is upgraded himself a little bit. He is
Yes.
writing about football now. So yeah, I think you can tell us about what
Yeah.
you're writing, where you're writing. So that
Yeah.
yeah,
First of all, that's the reason we haven't been uploading regularly because both of us are now like some sort of, I think we could say we're quite busy, I guess. But
yeah,
yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's not anything. I mean, it's not much, but yeah, I've been writing for a website called sportingbuzz.com. You can check it out.
yes.
And yeah, it's just basic blogs and stuff like that. But yeah, it kind of takes a lot of time, so we haven't been able to do more much episodes lately. But yeah, we're getting back to it, and of course.
So tell the latest what you've written.
Actually, the latest one was about IPL. So I don't think we should mention that here. But before that, I wrote a Champions
Okay.
League
Yeah.
about
Mm,
every, like, from all the groups that have been decided. For every group, I chose a key fixture. Like, for example, from Group A, there's Atletico Madrid and Bayern Munich. So the dates and
mm-hmm.
then like all the facts about the history and some sort of statistics and the records have been included. So like from all the groups I did that. So like yeah, it's been quite fun doing that.
Yeah, catch his latest work, and now let's do this podcast.
Yes.
Uh, well, this is triggered by the last two fixtures of the last match week, and it was. I know you wouldn't want to talk about it, and I'm not going to push
No,
you
no, it's okay.
because even I was watching Patrice Evra that day, and he was so devastated after the game, and it looked like for the first time any pundit looked to me as the passionate about actually passionate about football.
Yeah.
Other than that, I just see cliches from there. But yeah, and Patrice Evra. So we are obviously talking about United 1 and Spurs
Six.
6,
Yeah.
and then Spurs thought at least we may have won the best result of the day, but they were beaten to it by Aston Villa. So their hope of winning
Yeah,
in
me,
every anything
the
this season is gone.
the thing is that imagine beating Manchester United 6-1 at Old Trafford
Yeah.
and still not being talked about later in the night. I mean, only small clubs can do that. Our clubs can't relate. So, but but yeah,
Yes.
just talking about the game, I think see the first minute penalty, of course, everyone was shocked and it looked like United would be in control because going 1-0 up and playing your best squad, you could imagine them gaining control. But after that, it was defensive chaos, of course. Our own captain, Harry Maguire, it just hurts
Mm-hmm.
to see an 80 million pound defender not even getting the basics of defending right, and
Yeah.
especially when that guy is your captain and he's supposed to lead the defense. I think that's where it started. The first he took out Shaw and like they were just playing between themselves and Dombele came and then the quick free kick from Harry Kane caught us off guard, and then the Martial red card, of course, and everything sort of it was just chaos after that. It went downhill because Spurs were like absolutely lethal on the counter attack.
Yeah, even in I think the second or the third goal where they Eric Bailly
Yes,
and
yes, third goal.
uh, Maguire, yeah, they almost had about 3 to 4 headers, but they still couldn't clear it. And it was very shocking because one of the headers was so amateur by
Yes,
Maguire
yes,
that it didn't even go that up that
yes,
much upwards into the sky. It was just so yeah, United, and I saw no organization there because look, even if they were a man, not a man down, they were 11 versus
yes.
11. I still saw Aurier, Regulon have so much space, and I was actually because if you would have
Yeah,
obviously,
but yeah,
but watching the
I
game,
was
you
actually coming to that when we were actually down, I think after the Martial red card. If you saw Luke Shaw, he had completely left the left side open for Serge Aurier. He was
yeah,
having a
yeah,
day at the park,
completely.
and so I mean, so see, Tottenham had been playing Matt Doherty for all the games prior to this. Jose chose Serge Aurier for this one, and I mean, it completely paid off. He was actually, the attacks were coming from that right hand side. Of course, it was coming from Son as well from the left, but you could see Spurs were specifically targeting Luke Shaw because he was nowhere in his position, and
And
there was no one to
I think
cover and there
yeah,
was no one to cover him. So of course they took advantage, and I think the fourth goal and then the goal after halftime, which Aurier scored, and then of course I think that was Pogba's mistake. But yeah, it was from the left side yet again, and I mean it was say when you concede
yeah.
6 goals, and it just speaks for itself what your defense is like at the moment.
And I think it's even Pogba's responsibility and the seniors in the squad is their responsibility to when they go two one down or even 3-1 down after they have a red card. It's their responsibility to organize it. It's their responsibility to say to the players, let's go 3-1
Yes,
to the halftime. Let's not concede any more goals. Let's just because it was still looking as if it was once Spurs have the ball, there were three at the back, and midfielders were just
yes.
scrapping to come back. And I just wondered why Ole is not saying anything. So it was definitely no organization. And now when we go back to the Crystal Palace game, I think it's the first time maybe United have lost first
Yes,
two
yes.
Old Trafford
First time.
games, and coming after so much high of last season, I expected a lot from Manchester United. Obviously, they've failed to sign Sancho, so that might be a reason. But I think they still have a very good squad. They have a good attack. They have Bruno Fernandes and Pogba, because everyone yearns and covets for a player like Pogba in the
Yes.
middle, who can create anything out of nothing. And I always say that, and he's still not past his prime. So I think get their head
Yeah.
sorted. I mean, and just move on from
Yeah,
this result. And Ole needs
you
to tell.
actually just a minute. You mentioned Pogba. I mean, for the last 5 to 6 games, he's been pretty average. He was even substituted at halftime against I think it was Crystal Palace or Brighton. Here, Ole brought Fred on because he has not been able to make any sort of impact. And the way you said about the leaders, the senior players in the squad. I don't know if it's true, but I read something about Bruno Fernandes after halftime. He went into the dressing room. He was so angry. He basically targeted Maguire because he was not taking responsibility. He was not motivating the players as he was the captain, and that's why Ole substituted him at halftime, and he brought Fred and McTominay on. I mean, it could be for tactical reasons, of course, and I still think that that is why it happened. But this was another report, and surprisingly, I do not think that this might be fake because it could have actually happened. Bruno is that sort of player, and Maguire could have been attacked by him. And that's I think he should be stripped of the captaincy now. I think Bruno deserves it more than him.
Yeah, yeah, and even I think many United fans, and also there's this a message now flowing that people, Ole and United are thinking, who do we bring to support Maguire? But it's time to maybe think and consider about whether
Yes,
Maguire is the right person to be supported. But obviously they've spent so much on him that you can't. It's a similar case with De Gea, but De Gea still has something for him going on because he's better than Henderson on the ball, I think, and that's why maybe he gets his opportunity. But he's on massive
yes.
wage, and now spending 80 million on a defender, you
Yeah,
can't just
Maguire
bench him,
Maguire is
obviously. So
similar to
and yeah,
Kepa. I mean, they broke the world record fee. They tried to, trust him and kept him in the squad. But I think we should do
yeah,
what Chelsea did. They did get Mendy after what Kepa has been going through. I think it's time you accept that you made a mistake by paying that fee, because at that time we were desperate for a centre back and ended up paying what Leicester wanted. But I think
yeah,
it's time we admitted that it was a mistake and maybe did something to sort that out.
yeah. So yeah, and we could talk about the new transfers coming in like Alex Telles and Cavani, but we'll do a podcast for that later. Moving on to another team humiliated, and this is actual humiliation because no offense to Aston Villa, but I think you just can't lose to a team
Yes,
7-2 who were scrambling for scrambling to stay up last season. And obviously, Aston Villa have done well for themselves in this transfer window. They've got hold of Jack Grealish, not let him go away. They've got Ross Barkley. They've got Anthony,
they
Ollie
even got
Watkins.
Bertrand
So I think
Traore.
they've done good business. And yeah, yeah, I think that's very good business defensively as well.
And the thing is,
So I think
where you should not, you mentioned you should not be losing 7-2 to a side who was scraping for I mean, they were struggling to stay up, but I think you should not lose 70 to any side when you are the defending champions of England. And they did not even
yeah,
have
yeah,
one man
yeah,
down. They were like playing with 11 players, but I think
yeah, yeah,
it came down to again, Adrian was targeted a lot because Allison wasn't playing, and he was at fault for 2 to 3 goals. But the main problem with Liverpool is that they're trying to implement a similar high line to what Bayern do under.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And we talked about it. I think when it was a Community Shield, we
yes.
talked about it that if Klopp can pull this off, there's no stopping Liverpool. But it seems to be
Yeah,
that
the
he's
thing
struggling.
is, see, Bayern also have been targeted lately. They conceded 3 against Hertha Berlin, and then even the Sevilla game.
Even four against
Yeah, and even the
Hoffenheim.
Sevilla game, they weren't at their best. So, see, the Aston Villa exploited their high line, because when you play a high line, the players can they essentially ta are more focused on playing the long balls, and even if their passes are not played to perfection, if they have pacey wingers like Aston Villa do, they can still make the most of it. And playing a high line, it comes down to
Mm-hmm.
individuality rather than a collective defensive block. Like you know what Arsenal do, three at the
Yeah,
back, and then the players are more organized in defense this season. But with Liverpool, when it comes to Trent Alexander-Arnold, or like when they it comes to their individuality, they have been making a lot of mistakes, and we saw that in the game last night, and we even saw it against Leeds. So I think going
yeah,
to be more often, like teams are going to target that
yeah.
vulnerability in their defense, and try to exploit that.
Yeah, and you mentioned mistakes. I think there are a lot of mistakes there, and Van Dijk was very good pre the
Yeah,
COVID gap. I think even last season he looked a bit shaky, and this again, and I think Trent Arnold. I think even if he contributes so much towards attacking, but we talked about how defensively
Yeah.
sometimes he lacks that. And I think both Oliver Watkins' first goal and Arnold could have done more to at least stop the ball coming into him, but he didn't. Then it was another goal, another cross in where Arnold
Yeah.
couldn't just say, keep a foot in and just block the cross. I think he needs to do that, but obviously because of
Yes.
the high line, almost every goal, even when Grealish scored the last goal, and there were a lot of deflections. We
Yeah.
can argue
Three
about that,
deflections.
but I think to get those deflections, but even if those deflections weren't there, Aston Villa still would have
Yes.
gotten 4 goals, and that's but and most of the deflections were caused by this high line and just people going one on one with the keeper or one on one with the defender. And I think Liverpool should think about it. And even now, people, what I heard is that because Mane wasn't there, because Thiago wasn't there, the pressing didn't work. The press which
Yeah.
Liverpool want to do, maybe because why we think that why Bayern was successful in UCL with that high line is because they had an excellent midfield, excellent for forward line to actually press that. And I think
Yeah.
that works when you are pressing that way, that the highline works. But there was, and people argued, yeah, Sadio Mane wasn't there. But I would still say that even in Carabao Cup, Mane wasn't there, and Liverpool actually played very well against Arsenal in that game. They were unfortunate to lose it on penalties. I would say that, and even the 3-1 victory against Arsenal in the Premier League, I think they were very good that day, and Arsenal played with fear. And I think maybe Bernard Leno or David Luiz or someone said that we feared them, and that's why maybe they got that victory. But apart from that, I think Klopp was also, he couldn't utter any words. If you saw his
Yes.
post-match reaction, he was trying to explain something. He was trying to take something good, but I deep down we knew that he was so angry and he was so
He was
disappointed in
actually
his players
laughing after Aston
that
Villa scored every goal, and I think one of his decisions to, I mean, I know Gomez had a bad game, but he took him off and brought Fabinho on to play at centre back in his place, and I think even that caused them later because after that they conceded, and Fabinho, we all know he's a good player.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, I think even against Chelsea, he kept Timo Werner quiet all the game, and I think that's why Klopp trusted him. But when your team is performing the way they did last game, I think trusting him wasn't gonna work, and I think they still need a center back to add to the squad because it's if
yeah,
it's going to be
yeah,
this
yeah.
way, then it will be very hard for them to retain the title again.
Yeah, I think even Matip wouldn't be enough for them. But it looks like they're not going to go for
Yeah, I
anybody
mean,
now. Uh, but looking at, I think, and you would argue that I still think that United had a sort of a worse result than Liverpool, because what Liverpool has is they still have good players, and they still know that if they get it right, they might still have the opportunity or chance to win the league, or maybe even they have a higher chance of finishing top four. What United want is that they just need to sort out their defense, and it is looking unlikely right now. And I wouldn't say it's because of Ole, but obviously he has to do something. Like, now it's a good segue to move towards
yeah,
Manchester City. Now, what City's defense also have a lot of
yes,
mistakes in them right now. And even if Laporte has come in, Ruben Diaz is playing, Edison made a mistake against Leeds
yes,
United and they conceded. So what Guardiola has done, and I appreciate him for that, because he's actually accepted the situation. And what he has done is now he's playing Fernandinho and Rodri to just protect his defenders,
yes,
you know. And obviously they are struggling creatively because of that. But I think, do you think United should do a similar sort of thing, not play Pogba and Bruno Fernandes, maybe play Bruno Fernandes up front, but keep those defensively, maybe play Fred and Matic to just sit back, like don't don't actually go up front, because I've seen Matic run up front and just near the third,
Yep.
the final third. But maybe just say to him that just stay behind, protect your defenders. We'll get through this phase, and then
Yeah,
move
I
forward.
mean, see, th this is exactly what I was. We discussed this in many episodes earlier that United need to get a top CDM. They need it because Matic can do it in every game. And if they had got someone like Rice, then we wouldn't be having this argument because then it's possible to play Pogba, it's possible to play Bruno together, it's possible to play Bruno and Van de Beek together. Of course, we can still do it with Matic right now. But the thing is that with someone like Declan Rice or Thomas Partey, Partey is not a proper defensive midfielder. He's still a sort of a box to box. But the thing is, with players like those in the
Hmm.
side, you have that assurity in defense, like what Atletico Madrid have at their club. What Diego Simeone does is because of course, his defense is, responsible for that. But then again, the midfield also contributes a lot. And I think for the past, as I said, Pogba hasn't been up to his game, and I think Van der Beek will start the next game. But the City system you're talking about, Fernandinho is still a great CDM. I think he would still play in our squad, if you give him to us, I think he would start over Matic. But the kind of system you're talking about, I think Guardiola is not suited to it. He is 4-3-3 at City has always worked, and I think the
Yeah.
reason they're struggling right now is because they have both of the strikers, Aguero and Jesus, out, and they dominate possession. They have Sterling, Mahrez, they play Foden and De Bruyne, but you saw it in the game against Leeds as well. They had a lot of chances, but they couldn't finish it. And for to finish it, they need Aguero or Gabriel Jesus in their squad because Sterling missed a few. De Bruyne was trying to, as obviously he does that often. He creates those passes, but Mahrez as a striker or Sterling as a false nine, yes, sounds good in theory, but on the pitch, it hasn't worked, and we have seen that for the last two games, even against the 5-2 game against Leicester. I think City, even after spending all of this money, they still need to go for a left back because Mendy hasn't been working out for them. We have even I think a lot of people talk about this, but see 430 million they've spent on their defense so far, and if they still need to spend more, then I think, I mean, what do you say? I mean, they still need to spend more than United. As you compare them to that, they're nowhere near because we can't afford to spend more on defenders because we still haven't got our playing 11 sorted. We still need a right winger. We still need a centre back now, and there's talk about Maguire dropping as well. So two centre backs and a right winger. I mean, if you think about it, it's not possible because we can't recruit right at the moment.
Fernandinho is an exceptional player
Yeah,
still at his age. But what happens is when you play Rodri alongside him, you don't give an option of Rodri is not a straight,
yeah,
box to box player, or he's not that creatively gifted. So what happens is they both basically try to protect their centre backs, and because last season and even against Leicester, obviously Leicester they played Ake and Garcia, but they had so many mistakes, and even you talk about Mendy. I think he has no competition right now.
yeah,
That's why he's playing, and obviously defensively, attacking wise, I think he's okay. But I still think that there are far better players than him in that position. But defensively, he struggles. He even in one-on-one situations, and he's given penalties. So I think yeah, I think if you are spending, maybe Ake would slot in there because he can play that after Ruben Diaz. But I think still during Laporte and Ruben Diaz process of getting into the squad and getting still, because
yeah,
even Laporte he was injured, and I still think that after coming back, he hasn't been that great. And if you see, the previous City side would have just because when they would have known that we can't score more because Gabriel Jesus, and I'll come to that, he's nowhere near Aguero. So they would have just shut the game up and maybe probably won it 1-0 or something. But even if I still think that even if Ederson wouldn't have made that mistake where he just gave the ball to the Leeds player, I think Leeds United still would have scored, because we'll talk about Leeds as well because they're playing very good right now. But yeah, so defensively they are struggling. Guardiola is trying to protect them defensively, and now talking about Gabriel Jesus, he hasn't turned out to be a striker which City wanted. He hasn't turned out to be a replacement for Aguero, because Aguero is such a prolific finisher that he can still outscore Gabriel Jesus at this age. But by right now, I think Gabriel Jesus should have been a player who is scoring about 20-25 goals for Man City. But yeah, but I don't think, and probably City would spend, because it's such a rich club. I think they might spend next
Yeah,
season on a striker. But I just think that you mentioned, if you are spending about 400 million on your defense, your fans should expect you to at least keep, maybe out of 38 games, at least keep 20 clean sheets a season. Otherwise, yeah, otherwise there's no use of spending 60 million a defender. What's that? What's the use? And now Guardiola doesn't have any reason. If he doesn't win the league, maybe if he comes close, that's okay. But if he doesn't win a Champions League or a FA Cup or maybe a domestic treble, I think I would seriously question City. But I would say I would really go for sacking Guardiola, because maybe he needs to return somewhere where he's more comfortable and he's got
yeah,
his
yeah.
kind of
And
players.
of course, we the defense, as you mentioned, they played Ake and Garcia, and last night they played Diaz and Laporte, and I think even that has to do with their defensive problems because he's using new partnerships every game, and you know how long it takes for two
Yeah,
defenders to build a good partnership for your defense to get stable and all of that. But this kind of instability, just because he has a lot of options there, I think isn't gonna work out because he needs a proper partnership. Like he has to decide if it's gonna be Ake and Laporte or it's gonna be Laporte and uh, Diaz at the center back role, and then he can proceed with the other things as you mentioned, the Fernandinho and Rodri pivot in midfield. If he gets a good center back partnership who can keep clean sheets, then he wouldn't need to play two defensive midfielders, and then he can concentrate on the again going back to the 4-3-3 formation. But yeah, I think they'll need
yeah,
some
yeah,
time for build the chemistry because at the moment it's a bit imbalanced. And in the game against Leicester, we saw Kyle Walker and then Benjamin Mendy, and then the penalties that they gave away were so silly. I mean, they shouldn't have been making those kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
challenges. So I think they still need to work on the individual errors as well. And coming to Gabriel Jesus, I mean, he's a good player, nonetheless. Of course, not as good as, no, of course, not
yeah.
as good
No
as
doubt, yes.
Aguero because Aguero is in a different league. But we have seen Jesus get benched for Aguero because Aguero is a better striker than him, and of course Pep isn't gonna play Jesus over him. So he used to play the cup games, he used to play the UCL games, but now when Aguero wasn't available, and it could have been the time that Gabriel Jesus, proves himself and proves to Guardiola why he should start over Aguero. He's not available. I think even his luck hasn't worked, and then of course they have to play Mahrez, and they have to interchange the striking position, which is costing them up front. But luck has to play a part in this, and as you said, if City still need to bounce back from this, and if they fail, I think Guardiola will leave himself rather than the club sacking him because this kind of he a
Mm,
manager like this, if he's failed for like so many seasons, even after spending this much, I think he'll be disappointed with himself and think that I think it's time we do it at some other club because this
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of failure is just not good for his CV nor his legacy.
yeah, yeah. And just to add a point there that uh, well, after watching 3 games, I think De Bruyne has been very average for himself. I think this is a time he needs to step up, and now he needs to up his game because uh, look, you might argue that he's been world class. Yeah, yeah, he's been good. He's playing good football. I think he's still making those and creating those chances. But I think what De Bruyne needs now to do to absolutely just I think take City forward, because I think Liverpool's result has motivated dozens of teams now that they can achieve something this season, because anything is happening right now. But I still think that De Bruyne has been very average, and even against Leeds United, I think he had a couple of good opportunities which he wasted, and that has to do with the fact that obviously Sterling is not that vigilant enough, or he
Yeah,
doesn't have that striker instinct. So he obviously wasn't there when De Bruyne wanted to play that sort of a ball. But obviously, but yeah, but that's just what I think. And now moving on to City, to Leicester, because what happened is Leicester now won 5-3, and look at the unpredictability that they won 5-3 at the Etihad, and they
yeah,
lost at home 3-0 to West Ham, and West Ham also won 4-0 against Wolves. So these are some very unique times. I mean,
same.
I'm getting smiles here because what is happening right now? Because yeah, so talking about Leicester, I think they've made a good start to the season, but I still think that their victory against City came a bit because of what City did, and
Yeah,
they gave away about what 3 penalties, and yeah, so and against West Ham, their midfield wasn't just right. I think West Ham was obviously they were gunning after the Wolves victory, but Leicester should have been more gunning after the City's victory, but somehow they just lost. So, what do you think? Do you think Leicester has a chance of getting that consistency and maybe finishing in the Champions League this season after watching a couple of their games? Because I think Madison's goal against City was also something that we could look at him and say that probably he could give us
yeah,
more about that, more of those things. And obviously Vardy there, and they've signed some good defenders this season. I think Fofana, they signed him from Saint Etienne, and they've strengthened their defense as well. So do you think Leicester would finish
no,
upwards than what you predicted in our previous video, or do you think that they
no.
might
I
be just
think
up
see
and down,
they
up
are
and
they're
down?
still just 3 games in, and they of course they are injury struck because they lost their left back Benjamin Chilwell. They are now without Wilfred Ndidi, who is arguably the most important part of that midfield. He was being played at centre back for the first 2 games, and now he's injured. And they also have Ricardo Pereira missing, so they are playing Justin, and they are playing. Of course, the Castagna has been playing good at right back, but they have been playing a right back at left back, and their defense is very imbalanced at the moment because they don't have Wilfred Ndidi, and without Ndidi in their squad, I've seen some statistics. They concede a lot of goals
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
lose their games. I expected them to lose at City as well, like 4-0 or something. But then again, that game was City's own doing, and they brought the disaster on themselves. But that was exploited against West Ham. NDD's absence, they are playing Mendy, they're playing Daniel Amarty. They have been in the game. I think in the last game they played three at the back. They had Daniel Amarty at center back, and then they have played. I think they played a 3-5-2 or something like that. They played a 3-5-1 or something like that. Unorthodox formation. Rogers is playing different formations now, and Mendy, Amarty haven't been playing for Leicester for a while now, and and that was exploited against West Ham, because as you said that their midfield was pretty average. And yeah, I think that's what is going to cost them. And after Europa League starts, they are going to have a lot of fixture issues, and they don't have a, a squad with so much of depth to compete in all those competitions. Because let's be honest, in the Europa League, they're not as privileged enough as United or Spurs or Arsenal to play their B squads and then still win games. They will
Mm-hmm.
give it their all in hopes of a trophy, or to please their fans, because to go as far in Europe. So you can't expect them to compete in the Europa League with this squad, and then even challenge for a top four or a top six place in the Premier League. They also have the cup competitions remaining, and I think, yeah, I think that's why I still
Yeah,
stand with my prediction. What do you think?
I think now you mentioned Europa League. Arsenal have got a pretty good locations in their first groups because they don't have to travel far. But Leicester, I think they have
Yeah,
Athens, so they have to go all the way to
I think you
Greece.
should take
Then
Maguire
I
there.
think they also have yeah. 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 So I think Leicester, I predicted them to finish ninth and ninth or over there. I think if they sort of get their squad back, they don't have more injuries. I think they might finish a little bit upwards, but I still think that all these
Yeah,
traditional teams they'll just bounce back. I don't think this might be continued where United City and we're seeing that 13th and 14th. I think they will just bounce back, and yeah, so I still go you know the
yeah.
ninth with them. Yeah. So even yeah, Pereira and NDD, I think those are proper midfielders which Leicester need right now. And now talking about West Ham as well, I think they struggled with the first two games, and then they bounced back. And we'll talk about Wolves as well now here, because we expected Wolves to get their season going up and running. They've had some difficult fixtures, but I think West Ham won when they lost 4-0. I think I didn't expect them to just lose that. Yeah, they've now lost against City, against West Ham, and I
Yeah.
think they've lost three games and just won one game. So it's just probably they need to start going because they have everyone, and they
No,
have
I
new
think
signings.
Wolves
They
have
have
won
signed
two.
Samedo as
They
well.
won
So
against
probably
Sheffield, and they won against in the last game also they won.
yeah. So six
Yeah,
points. I just checked. They've won two, lost two. So but still, if they want to, because this is a tough season now, because now you have Leeds United. You have, I think, even Southampton. They've
yeah,
just they're not quite there yet. Southampton 11th, I think. Yeah, but I think they have the potential. I think you already have first top seven teams there,
yes. We'll
including
get to
now
that.
Everton. And you need to, if you want to finish, yeah, we'll get to that. If you want to finish anywhere near Europa League, and I think that would be the best for Wolves, you need to start going. But I just think the problem with Wolves, what I am thinking, is that they just haven't gotten into it. They have good players. Montino struggled a bit. Montino is struggling a bit because he's that central figure for Wolves. He controls the midfield, and he's I think one of the greatest players to not ever play for a proper
Yes,
Champions League club. And I don't know why no one actually took him seriously, but he played for Porto, then Monaco, and now at Wolves, obviously. Yeah, but yeah, he hasn't been going. I think even Sai's played
yeah,
well the first game, but after that, I think even he needs to just step up and take that responsibility, which we have been talking about.
yeah,
That even City is lacking right now, and I think going back to City just for a while, that you actually mentioned Vincent Company when we were doing the season preview,
review.
or probably last season.
Yeah,
You yeah, review maybe, and you said that they lacked a figure like Company, and maybe that's true for City this season as well. They don't have this Yaya Toures or company, to just shout at the players
Yeah,
and say
even
that just
David
get up,
Silva
open
has
your eyes.
left now.
It's not
Then
going to
he was
be,
kind of he
yeah,
was the captain, and he
yeah,
was the most experienced, I think, in their squad after Aguero.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, even Wolves, I think they need now a proper figure
Yeah,
to actually
and
just move them
with
forward.
Wolves, I think losing Jota is going to be a major factor, I think, in their season,
Mm.
because for Liverpool, Jota is going to be a backup, to Mane, Salah whenever they get injured. But for Wolves, he was actually their starter and someone they could rely on. But now that he's gone, they have to play. See, Pedro Neto and Daniel Podence are good players. I can say, but Jota, I think Jota was a different player than them. He has been playing well for Portugal as well. And this season, I think it could have been a great season because he finished the last season on a quite a bit of high. He scored two consecutive hat tricks, I think, one in the Europa League and one in the Premier League, as the season was coming to an end. So I had I even had taken him in my FPL team, but then transferred him out due to the transfer. But yeah, Jota's absence, and I think
Yeah,
they even Doherty's absence. They now are playing Nelson Semedo at right wing back, who still is going to need a bit of time settling into the Premier League because against West Ham he was quite average, and the of course West Ham took advantage of that. And as you said, yeah, in defense they need size to get that pick up his form and be a leader at the back. And in the last game,
yeah,
they actually didn't play Adama Traore, but they still won. Yeah, so
yeah,
I think
yeah,
Nuno is kind of trying out new combinations each game. They don't for the past couple of seasons, we have seen Wolves play the exact same 11 for every game. But for the four games this season, he has been trying out different teams, even at right back, even at left back. He has those options, Ruben Vinagre and then Marcal, who was signed from Lyon. So I think it's still a bit of trial and error this season for Wolves. But again, they started last season quite poorly, but they bounced back later. So yeah, I think it will happen with them, and they don't even have Europa League this season. So their only focus is the uh, Premier League. So I think even if the start hasn't been quite good, they will bounce back later.
yeah. And now they play Leeds United next. And
Yeah,
wow, talking about Leeds United, how impressed are you? And we already knew that it's going to be
yes,
something special from Bielsa. We saw a little
yeah,
bit against Liverpool the first game, but even they actually
yeah,
quite struggled to against Fulham. But the last two games were absolutely brilliant. Last two games they were actually now, it's now looking as if Leeds United are the team who are going to just go out there with confidence. They're not going to back down. And I could see the, what's happening is that they have, on paper, if you look, they have quite average players, I think. Even if you
yes,
see Harrison score one or two goals, he's not a regular scorer for them. Even Costa, he's not a regular scorer for them. Bamford, yes, he will score goals for you, but he's not a, orthodox striker who's just going to finish. He needs those kind of deliveries. But when they are playing synchronously, I think they are probably one of the best 11 right now. And I think they've had a good transfer season as well. I think they've signed some incredible players, and even Rodrigo, even though he gave the penalty away, he's still looking as a proper good player. And yeah, just take us through the
yeah.
City
So
versus Leeds game.
talking about, of course, when you mention Leeds, you have to acknowledge the brilliance of Marcelo Bielsa, because I mean, in the last game against City, it was kind of a I think you'd moment for some because Bielsa against Pep. I think Bielsa was Pep is the one
Yeah,
of the managers who respects Bielsa a lot, and then it was a kind of a masterclass, I think. And in the first half, I think it was all City. From the beginning, they took the game to Leeds. They were kind of dominating. Despite Leeds having more possession, City had more territory. Leeds weren't being able to, get into. They took some time to get into the game, and but after they did, I mean, they were complete. I mean, they were really great because the Bielsa press, as we all know, we didn't quite see it in the first half, but in the second half, I think when they really got into it, of course, the Edison mistake, but Leeds United could have actually won the game because in the end, Patrick Bamford had a chance. Edison bailed City out. But
Yeah, yeah,
I've noticed this, that for the first two games where Leeds United conceded four against Liverpool and then three against Fulham, you even talked about this in the podcast where Bielsa said that yes, we are scoring, but we can't keep conceding those goals in every game. But after those two games, in the
yeah.
games against Sheffield and in the game against City,
Mm,
Bielsa changed his system. He reverted to a 3-1-4-2. He did not play four at the back. He was playing with three in defense, and Calvin Phillips, who has been brilliant so far. He is like that controller, the proper CDM we have been talking about. And then he has played two up front, and as you said, Patrick Bamford needs someone. He was given someone, and I think with Rodrigo now, I think Rodrigo and Bamford can play up front. But yeah, I think Leeds United, even if they don't have those professional players, again, it's a bit like Liverpool's midfield. They have average players, but Klopp gets the job done from them. And I think that's what Leeds have been doing because Bielsa demands a lot from his players. The kind of football they play is very different to what our teams play because it's very energetic. It requires a lot of energy. They completely press the opponent out, and again they are on the counter attack also. They are really good. So yeah, I think it comes down to the manager at the end of the day, and Bielsa is I mean we have discussed in the previous episodes of how great a tactician he is, and we have actually witnessed that now. And going into the season, this is going to benefit Leeds United because they have made a lot of signings. They have even, I think, signed Rafinha, the right winger. So yeah, I think as I said before, they will be the package of this season, and we could see them finish in the even higher than I previously mentioned. So yeah, I think this is going to be a great first season in the Premier League for them.
yeah, and it's good to see the board backing the manager and Leeds United. People may have forgotten Leeds United, and sometimes what happens is we talk about these club and we say that they are huge. Like we talked about Valencia, and we say that they are a huge club, but people don't quite relate that
Yeah,
because they haven't had a good recent history, and that is the same thing with Leeds United. But people don't know that before they went down and this 13 to 14 years journey, they were actually Champions League contenders. They were actually league title contenders. They had this massive fan base. They had won. They had
yeah.
actually
They
ruled the
actually have a
60s and the
European
70s.
trophy as well.
Then coming into the 80s, they still won a few titles. Yeah, yeah, they have a European trophy, and I think uh, I think that's why they are a huge club, and that's why they are more bigger than some of the clubs like Wolves or even Sheffield or people or teams which are in Europe right now. Even Leicester, I would say they're bigger than Leicester. And right now, I think it's good to see they are getting more players because obviously they know that Bielsa is not going to be there to actually guide them to something very high. He might be there for 2 or 3 years, but after that they have to look after the club, and they have to they, you know it, what happens is that sometimes, like Everton, if you take Everton, is also a massive club, but what they are in a you know they are just mixed in the crowd. They just can't get outside of it. And this season is that attempt for Everton that they should get out of it, because it's been like, you finish fifth, you finish 11th, then what, they finish seventh, they finish even 13th. So they're nowhere near a big club right now. And Leeds United are just, they just have to do that. And they have to follow Wolves, they have to follow, even probably, Leicester maybe, that after getting promoted, they've won the league title, they've played Europe twice now,
Yeah,
so that's
and
that's the route for them,
we did a
I think.
special
And
episode on
yeah.
Barcelona and Valencia about their ownership, and I think Leeds United are complete opposite of that, because before their Italian owner took over, they were still the squad that was expected to stay in the championship and not get promoted, because but after that takeover, the kind of changes he brought into the club, and it was because of him that Marcelo Bielsa came, and he created that positive atmosphere among the team and all the other teams. I recently watched their documentary. So that's, I mean, all the other clubs, I think Sheffield United, when before the season they were promoted, they had a match in the championship, and the Sheffield owner actually says to, I don't remember the name of the Leeds United owner now, but he says that before you came, Leeds, it wasn't like this at Leeds. They weren't this big. They did not have this much of respect from other clubs. They were kind of disrespected. But after he came, he brought a kind of a class, and he, just created that kind of vibe that even some teams started, the owners started respecting Leeds, and now they have good relations. And of course, within 2 seasons, they could have been back in his first season itself, but they bottled it. But now they're back in the Premier League, and they have Bielsa. They have such a great squad, as you said, with average players, but players are willing to give their all for the club. And I think their owner has a major, major role to play in that.
Yeah, yeah, and even we might think that BSR came in and changed sort of everything, but you just have to remember that
Yeah.
in his first season he didn't qualify. He was
No,
outside the top
they
six, I
were
think, or did
actually,
he play the
yeah, they
playoffs?
were it was sort of
Probably.
like
Yeah,
Liverpool City, when Liverpool were top of the table throughout, but then some bad results, and then City in the very end won. So it was like that. Leeds were top,
yeah, yeah,
but then they
yeah, yeah.
bottled started losing games, and then in the playoffs they eventually lost. But they did make the playoffs in their very first season, and the fans, they did not have any kind of expectations from the club. But since
Yeah,
this takeover, they are, kind of
yeah, yeah,
expecting bigger things from the club now, and I think it's great for fans to have an owner who loves the club and is ready to invest in it, because I cannot relate, neither can you, to
yeah.
this.
Yeah, yeah. And oh my God, when we actually do the transfers podcast, I think it's just going to be frustration and everything, unless
Still
Arsenal
time,
sign party
still
right
time.
now. Yeah, and that's going on. So yeah, yeah. Before we release it, if party is signed, I take my words back, because it's just a relief.
But I
But
think
yeah, if we don't sign
if
him, I
Arsenal do
just don't know
sign
where
Party, I
where
think
Arsenal.
you, as you said, you told me earlier that you still need one more midfielder like Aouar or someone more creative. So I think still won't be a 10 out of
Yeah,
10
yeah,
window. I think you could give it
yeah,
an 7 or an 8, because even Willian is not a long-term signing. He's just,
yeah,
as
yeah,
you've seen already, he is just the kind of player who performs in his first games and then kind of disappears and then appears in, makes those sort of cameos in other games. So I think the only players who would count are Gabriel, Saliba, and of course, if Partey comes in, then him.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, I wouldn't talk much, but Willian is probably because to give some sort of competition to Pepe, and we are already seeing how Pepe has improved by Willian coming in here. And I wish that Pepe actually now just gives
Yeah, I
justice
think
to that
Pepe
72
needs to
million which we
start
paid.
from the next
Just
game. I
about
mean,
8 million.
even I have watched Arsenal's game, and it's very clear to see that Pepe has more of an impact than Willian right now. And I think it just makes sense because Pepe is young, and Arteta needs to start him from the next games.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, we were talking about how fans are now expecting something better from their owners of Leeds United and going to another set
Yeah,
of fans, the
surprisingly.
Merseyside, the blue side of Merseyside. And by the way, they play tomorrow. And for the first time, maybe in years, Everton are ahead of Liverpool, and they might yet be much ahead, and maybe 6 points, because Liverpool are sort of looking a bit shaky, and Everton are going to go there and at Goodison Park, and they are, I think, for the first time, they're going to think that we've got the upper hand. We've got players who are in form more than what Liverpool are, and but I still think when we talked about Everton, I still think that defensively they might struggle a little bit this season. But yeah, what are your thoughts on James
Yeah.
Rodriguez and Calvert-Lewin, obviously, who's been probably given
I have
so
him
many
since the
points to
first
the
game week
FPL
actually.
players who've
It was
trusted
kind of
him.
a I actually had Werner,
Yeah,
but then I
yeah,
thought
yeah.
he is I don't know what happened. I just took Calvert-Lewin and didn't regret my decision at all. But yeah, coming back to Everton and for the game against Liverpool, they also have this massive boost because Klopp confirmed that Alisson is going to be out for the Everton game as well.
And yeah, and even
Yeah,
Mane and Thiago
yeah,
would be no, no.
yeah,
I
they'll
think
be
yeah,
back.
this is after
But
2 weeks,
still,
right? So probably they would be
Alisson's
back after
absence and
COVID. Yeah,
what Albion does to Liverpool, we all know. And Everton so far, I mean, the Ancelotti has
yeah,
got the backing from the board. He got those three midfielders, as we said. And we did talk about defense the last time, but today Everton signed Ben Godfrey from Newcastle. He's another good centre back. So the board are backing Ancelotti, and they are improving their defense, of course. And Ancelotti system of he actually on paper it's like a 4-4-3-3 where James is on the right and stuff. But I think on the field it is more like a diamond of 4-4-2 where James just from the right, of course, but he still drifts
yeah,
into
yeah,
the center a lot. He is almost in all the games I've seen. He whenever he gets the ball, he just cuts in into the left hand side and sort of switches the ball and or either plays the a line breaking pass towards Calvert-Lewin and then they already have Allen. We talked about how underrated he is and a great
yeah, yeah,
midfielder. Then Doucouré, Allen, Rodriguez, and then even Andre Gomez. They have sort of just clicked together and they fit that Ancelotti system. And then Calvert-Lewin, of course, the target man, and he has been in great form. He is the tops, I think, in Europe's top five leagues. He's the highest scorer. He has two hat tricks so far, and there's of course a lot is going to come from him. And then Richarlison, of course, is. I mean, I talked about him earlier that he is another player who's underrated because I don't know why people don't rate him, but he still is a great player to have. And when you play a 4-4-2 diamond, it's Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin up front. Richarlison still a bit left inclined, like Chelsea are doing now with Timo Werner. But Calvert-Lewin there and Rodriguez covering the right side, and then they of course have the Coleman and Digne as fullbacks to attack and then defend as well. So I think they have a great balance right now. Attacking Their attacking side of play is just phenomenal for so far in the season. Rodriguez has settled right, and we thought that he would take some time to settle into the Premier League, but he has hit the ground running so far. And of course, Calvert-Lewin is there, the midfield is there, and now even the defense still
yeah, yeah,
needs a bit of improvement, but it will improve. And with Ancelotti, of course, you have experience, you have that winning mentality which Everton have lacked with Roberto Martinez, and then even Ronald Koeman, and then Marco Silva. But with Ancelotti, you have a proven winner who can motivate his players into no, if it's still early to talk about the title, but Ancelotti can motivate his players for a top six finish, or even in the cup, they can challenge for a trophy. So yeah, I think Everton are going really good right now, and they will give test will be a huge test for Liverpool next week. And I think they might just end up winning with the sort of form and chemistry and momentum they have right now.
Yeah, and I think teams like I don't quite understand why teams like Tottenham and Everton haven't targeted at least the Carabao Cup, because going trophyless for so many seasons now, and it's worse for Everton. So with
Yeah,
this squad, I think the best season what Everton can have is qualify for Europe for next season, at least win the Carabao Cup, which is possible. I think they have a good squad to actually challenge that. And Ancelotti is a smart, he's a smart manager. He's not just, every game he's not going to go with the same formation and everything. Like I think what Martinez and Silva struggle with is that they sort of created what they wanted, but given that you are now a manager of Everton, you can't just have your way in every game. You have to readjust. And what Arteta, I think that's why I somehow highly rate Arteta, is because even if he knows that you can actually play the way you want to with these players, he still goes out
yeah,
and tries to have the best formation, rather than try to win the game with his own identity, because he still knows
yeah,
that maybe some of few players, he still needs few players. And that's what we saw against West Ham and Sheffield as well, and even against Liverpool he changes that. And I think Ancelotti will do that, and that's why Everton will have a good, very very great season. And yeah, I think even talking about their midfield, looks sorted. I just have a little bit doubt on their defense, is that they sort of struggle on counter attacks, they struggle on one-on-ones. Digne is a proper fullback. I think he's the next best fullback after maybe Robertson, because the way he balances out his attacking and defense as well. But still, maybe if the defense improves a little bit, I think Everton would be great. So yeah, and we haven't talked about Chelsea, so let's not do that. Let's move on to
no,
yeah.
I
So
think
let's
we
move on
can,
to. I think
yeah,
it
we
would take
can
a lot
sum
of
up
time. I just
Chelsea
want to
in
say that it's still
little time,
Chelsea
because
needs to
we
be
even talked
patient. I
about
think
this earlier
uh,
with all of these new signings that you've been bringing
yeah,
into the squad, and the inexperience that Lampard has. This was sort of predictable because he has a lot of options
yeah,
to choose from now. And I think the lack of chemistry, the lack of
yeah,
balance, I think this is just sort of predictable, because in none of the games so far they have looked authoritative despite all of that. Even in the game against I think the 4-0 win, they had two penalties, and then apart from that, the goals came from Chilwell and Zuma. So I think Havertz, Werner, and all of their are, of course, they're good players. They will settle into it later. But I think the lack of imbalance and the lack of experience that Lampard has in managing top players, and then see, if you gave these sort of players to top manager like Pep Guardiola, or even Jurgen Klopp, or even Carlo Ancelotti for that matter, they know how to use them or fit them into their system. But the thing is that Lampard, I think it is sort of like
yeah,
Lampard is trying to make his system according to the players he has, and not adjusting the players into a fixed sort of system. So I think this has to, somewhat to play, because he is playing Abraham and Werner up front now, when earlier it was expected to for Werner to be the lone striker, but then it didn't work out. So he has to change systems, he has to change players, and to find the perfect 11, to find the perfect balance, it will take a lot of time. So I think Chelsea fans need to be patient.
yeah. And I think, but yeah, need to be patient. But I think what mistake Lampard has done is that
Yeah,
Chelsea, since the Sarri time, they've struggled defensively, and they haven't sorted their defense out. I think at least now, and Lampard is still the look. Thiago Silva will bring experience, but apart from that, when he has to be rested, you're going to play Champions League, you're going to play FA Cup, and given that you have now spent so much, you are expected to at least reach the semis or even the quarters of either UCL or Europa. But now what happens is that they're defeated. Apart from Aspilicueta, I think uh, maybe even Zuma makes mistakes. Thiago Silva just made a
West Brom.
mistake against, I think, maybe Brighton.
Yeah,
Yeah, West Brom. Yeah, West Brom. So yeah, so they should have bought in someone, but they haven't. And now in midfield they have too many options, and he just tries to slot in Havertz. He has Jorginho, he has Kante, he has Ziyech now as well. Now Werner is now a midfielder for him. So and given that now talking about imbalance, last season he had all
yeah,
these youngsters coming up, Mason Mount, Loftus Cheek, and now it's a certain imbalance in the quality because Havertz is, I think, a better player than Mount, and he's signed proven players. He hasn't even signed players
yeah,
like Gabriel, who hasn't quite proven in the big leagues. Werner and everyone, they have proven in the big leagues, and now he has signed them. He has to play them. So it just looks like maybe Chelsea thought of as if we need to build a squad
yeah,
for the next manager. Like if Lampard doesn't do it, when we bring in the next manager, he already has a world class team. And that's what is happening with Chelsea for the last 10, 15 years. That's why we see Chelsea win the league title, go out, play Europa League, then again win the title or something, then finish 10th or something. What's happening is that they buy world class players, they have one good season, next season their manager maybe doesn't quite do well. They sack him, bring in another manager. He already has a world class team. Puts them somewhere between third, fourth. That is what is happening. But I think maybe this season as well, if Lampard doesn't perform, I wouldn't be surprised if Lampard is sacked before probably December, or in December if he is maybe sixth or seventh, or maybe even
yeah. Me
fifth,
neither.
maybe. But and that's it, I think, Chelsea. But obviously, you need to be supportive and you need to be patient because this side, if they get in form, I think they might have a 8-2 victory or something against any side because they're
Yeah,
so
I mean
good
Chelsea
on paper.
United is after the break, so you wouldn't have to wait so too long for a get to
Yeah.
scoreline. But yeah, I think is that it, or we are going to talk about it?
Yeah, just the last thing. I just wanted to add in the VAR system
Yeah,
in unpredictability of Premier League because we've seen so many penalties awarded. I think the Newcastle one against Spurs was so harsh on Spurs, and even some of the even against Rashford, I think there was no VAR involved. But then why didn't you? You had to see. I think Lamela should have
yeah, Martial,
gone off
Martial.
as well in that.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry, Marshall.
yeah,
Did I say
it's
Rashford or
okay.
something?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry. Yeah, Marshall. Yeah. So, and I think you would agree to this as well that VAR has been so much, I think it's good. This VAR system is good, but you need to use it proportionately. It can't depend on every referee. So, what's the use of VAR if it's depending on every referee's decision anyway? So, if you're awarding a penalty to a slight handball, then you need to award the penalty to a slight handball elsewhere. You just can't award in the big games or in the smaller games. So are you seeing this, inconsistency in VR? Yeah,
yeah.
that's the
You
word.
see, VAR, they have involved technology in this, and technology when it gets mixed with fans' emotions, because it's not going according to your team, then of course everyone is going to criticize it. But see, the main point of VAR was to, bring those fine margins, decide the if it is a goal or not based on those fine margins. And we have seen last season how goals have been ruled out just because just a slight part of the knee or something like that was ahead of the defender. When previously, of course, the assistant manager is not going to look so deep into the decision. So because of that, the fans of course get annoyed. But yes, it has been inconsistent sometimes, because see, when you talked about the Tottenham handball against Newcastle. If VAR was not there, it wouldn't have been given penalty, because it wouldn't have even been noticed, because Dyer was, the sort of position he was in. I don't think he had any sort of control over what's going to happen. But just because VAR rule states that if the hand is apart from the body and the ball touches the hand, you have to give the penalty, then they have to give it. They don't look if the player is, he doesn't have a control over the situation, or if it's not deliberate or something like that. Just because it's in the rule and it's technology, they're going to give it, and that is going to annoy a lot of. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's about it about VR. It's just that it needs to be more. I think when it was introduced, people needed to, we knew what sort of consequences it's gonna have on the game, because it's technology after all, and you can't mix it with the fans' emotions and everything like that. So I think we have to accept that this is how it's going to be from now on. Maybe they'll try to make it a bit more lenient, because it's different on the pitch than what it's on the paper. When you make those sort of rules, it's just sort of seems unfair. But I think, yeah, I think some sort of a change needs to be made, because if it goes on like this, every game is going to have at least three or four penalties. Because let's be honest, that has been the case this year,
yeah,
especially when it comes to Manchester United. I don't
yeah.
know what sort of is luck or something is like that, but it's not just that we have been getting penalties. There have been penalties being awarded against us as well. And I actually read a lot something about the Premier League football that has been being used this season. It is sort of like it is a bit different, the fiber and everything. That's why we've been seeing a lot of goals. It is more friendly, because the goal that you saw against Leeds that Salah scored, usually those kind of goals don't go in, they go into the sky or something like that. But with this ball, it is a bit different, and it is a bit. That's why we've been seeing in the. I think they use this kind of ball in the League One as well, and PSG just absolutely run riot there. So I think it's going to be a bit more familiar now, even with VAR, and the sort of a lot of goals have been scored this season as well, and I think that's going to continue now.
Yeah, yeah, and something tells me that United getting penalties is more of all tactics, I would say. So yeah,
Yeah,
and
maybe.
maybe so, and just to end it here, that I still, and even when you see defenders defending, they are much cautious, and even the thinnest of touches can now
Yeah,
get you a yellow card. So I just think that
a
maybe it's
red
not
card.
fair. Yeah, even red card. And just about 3 or 4 seasons ago, we saw, you know, defenders like Company, defenders like Ferdinand, Vidic,
Yeah,
even yeah. So even John Terry, they were aggressive. They were, if you just go past them, they'll hurt you, and that's why you wouldn't go past them, and that's the strength they had, and you need that, but probably you won't
exactly.
have.
And yeah, just to one thing you like you said, I think the fear of a defender
Yeah,
is
yeah,
not there anymore, because even if they, as you said, the slightest of touches in the box, if you, or not even in the box, if you go past them and they just sort of push you or something, you go down. And sometimes, even if it is the faintest of touches, and even if it is a dive, the referees give the foul because the player has touched the
yeah, yeah.
opposite team's player. So I think, yeah, there is not that sort of that influence from the defenders. Of course, Van Dijk has this influence because of the defensive side of his game, but that fear among the strikers, I think it's not there
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah. Yeah, because even what we had is that if someone goes to ground, and if it's the names which I took,
Yeah,
people referees wouldn't give it. Referees would say, just get up and just get going. I can't give a yellow card to Terry, or I can't give a
yeah,
red card to Ferdinand or something, because they were these giants who were so much passionate about their play in every single match that you couldn't, and that was the fear, and that what motivated. But now if you see, when even on counters or anything, you just back off the defender, get him towards into his D, and if you fall
yeah,
down with the slight extra of touches, there's going to be VAR, and the referee, he's going to get a stick. But I think the solution is that just leave it to the referee, and maybe ask him that why is he not taking this decision, because he has to look the pace of the game. If it's end to end, you're bound to have those sort of moments. If
yeah,
it's probably a dead game, and you see a tackle of the slightest touch, maybe probably then you can give some sort of a controversial decision. But yeah, basically that is the story of VAR. And now, just to end it here, you will be VARY, very maybe, VERY,
yeah,
very
yeah,
uh, maybe bored or something. But I think this was just necessary, and we just wanted to talk about what is happening in Premier League, because I think it's the best league, and the phrase that in Premier League anyone can beat anybody is actually coming true now. That
yeah,
anybody is beating anybody. So yeah, it was a fun podcast, man. Thanks for joining me, and yeah, uh, would you like to end it, or should I?
yeah. Do it.
Yeah, so just subscribe to us on YouTube, follow Vedant as well on Twitter, and even follow his articles on Sporting Buzz. And he's also updating every match day, I think. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
yes.
so follow him, and even follow our podcast, listen to our podcast, and yeah, that's it. We'll meet you after the international break. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.